Hello, friends and family, strangers and acquaintances, my future children, and my future self. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone for all the love you've been showing this podcast. It genuinely excites me that people have reached out to me to tell me that they are enjoying this and are resonating with it. Anyone who knows me in real life, you're more than welcome to suggest/request topics you want to hear more about, or any questions you might want me to answer on the podcast. Also, I definitely have plans to feature more guests in the future, but for now, I want to stick with just the lady and I. Speaking of, in this entry, Lex and I get into coming out to her parents again with me, dating another man before me, our different styles in communication, gender/sexuality, and my dog, and many other topics, of course. Without further ado, let's go all in. Ladies and gentlemen, I am back with my lovely girlfriend, Lex. Lex, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. We left on quite the cliffhanger last time around about a certain blanket.
Oh, yeah. It's mine.
Yes, it is yours, but I primarily use it because I like how soft it is.
Yeah, that's the most accurate.
It is so soft and so comfortable, and it's just one of those like throw blankets that you can get off of Amazon. It's Hamilton the Musical themed. Shout out Lin-Manuel Miranda. He is a genius.
Yeah.
And everything he touches is gold.
Pretty much. Yeah, my mom gave it to me for like Christmas or like a birthday present like a couple years ago. And now Juan just like uses it.
Yep.
Like I have my own blanket and he has his own blanket and we don't share because I take the blankets.
Oh yeah, I've I've woken up many a cold night to no blanket.
I always try to give you a blanket.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But that is funny. I've seen TikToks where it's like advice for healthy relationships: get separate blankets.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's like we learned that a little too late, I would say. Like
better late than never.
Yeah.
We've learned it now.
The stupid part about it is that we have like an obscene amount of blankets too, and it's like you could have just used one the entire time, but we just didn't. We were just trying to share one, and it never really worked.
Yes. Well. Moving on. Something that we actually didn't touch on that I thought we should have, or I wanted to. Last time you talked about coming out to your parents when you were with your girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's very interesting that we just recently, well, you really did the coming out again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For like yeah.
With me, in the sense of like, you came out like to your mom and saying that we were dating because she really just recently found out.
Oh yeah, like she didn't know. Like we didn't really tell.
We didn't disclose that.
We didn't disclose that to like my parents. Yeah, partially because like I didn't feel, not that they didn't need to know, but like, well, I didn't feel like it was, until we got like 6 years in at this point, and it's like, yeah, maybe we should.
Yeah, 6 years of tiptoeing. It got kind of old.
Yeah, it got kind of old. And then also like, like the more serious you get in a relationship, it's kind of like, well, you got to kind of like come clean eventually sort of thing. And like the reason why I didn't was pretty much because of the whole like identity crisis we kind of mentioned in the last podcast. Cause it's, it was like difficult enough for me to like reconcile like my identity, let alone having to deal with like coming out again to like my parents. So that was something I just like kind of really didn't want to deal with and just kind of like pushed off. And I came out in a very like chill sort of way. Like I was just on the phone with my mom and like I honestly don't even remember exactly how it came up. I just kind of came up and like my mom asked the question and I said yes, and that was kind of it. And then we had some more conversation about it, but it wasn't really much more than that.
Right.
I never told my dad because I just, to be honest, he reacted not the greatest the first time around. And I figured, well, my mom can just tell him and there you go.
Right.
That's all you really need to know.
Right. There was no dramatic kiss scene between us
no.
for the big reveal.
Yeah, there wasn't any of that. It was much more like a lot chiller. And like in hindsight, I probably didn't need to like wait as long as I had to like tell, well, really my mom. But I just didn't want to go through the awkward like pacing of like, all the awkward questions that she asked me after the fact. And I was like, I just didn't want to deal with that. That was kind of the main reason. Yeah, I just really wanted to avoid like an awkward situation and like a rehashing basically of my sexuality. And yeah, like it definitely wasn't like this big reveal moment really, which was kind of nice that it was kind of like unceremonious. Like there wasn't a lot of, not necessarily like fanfare, but like just, it was just very chill. And I kind of like over worried about it, I guess is a good way of saying that. But like it felt like it was bigger than maybe it was. But yeah, I mean, obviously like saying that I was gay for like a long time and then suddenly to my parents, I guess, like, oh, now you're dating a guy and it's like, that's different. And
yeah, I could see how that could get annoying to have to explain.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's not like it was like, it's not even that like I didn't want them to know. It was, I just really didn't want to have like that conversation. Like I wasn't really like ready to have that conversation. My mom kind of understood that too, because she never really asked why. Like, oh, like why did you wait? Like she didn't really ask that. She was just like, oh, like I knew you'd tell me eventually, kind of thing.
Yeah. I feel like we all knew the game that we were playing.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
In the sense we're like,
my mom's smart. Like
yeah, I felt like they, or at least she knew, but we never said anything. And we all just kind of acted like we were just best buddies.
Oh yeah, for a time that was the truth.
Right.
Yeah, that was definitely true at one point. But I mean,
yeah, like 6 years in, we lived together.
Yeah, and we've been living together.
Yeah.
For the majority of our relationship now.
We're very comfortable sleeping in the same bed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
those are some green flags if I've ever seen one.
I mean, to be fair, I did sleep in the same bed with like a lot of my actual women friends that I had that weren't people I was sleeping with, but so it's not super weird for me, but yeah, like there were definitely like come on. I don't have a girlfriend, you don't have a girlfriend or a boyfriend because some people thought you were gay.
Yes.
That's a whole nother can of worms.
That's another can of worms. Just because I am in touch with my feminine side does not mean I am gay.
Yeah, no,
but
definitely not.
If the right person were to come.
Anthony.
Shout out Anthony Porowski from Queer Eye. You are a gorgeous man. Oh, yes. And I would leave Lex in a heartbeat.
God.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You also have a partner. A husband?
I don't know if he's married.
At least a partner.
Yeah, he has at least a partner.
Like another version of you, also drop dead gorgeous.
Yeah, for real.
My goodness.
I can't remember if he's married or not.
But no, I am mostly heterosexual. I like women. Mm-hmm. They are immaculate creatures.
I also like women.
Yes.
We've covered this.
That's a cool thing about dating someone who used to identify as lesbian and now identifies more along the lines of pansexual. Mm-hmm. You're mostly attracted to women.
Oh, correct? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, like physically, if we're talking about like a physical sense.
Right.
Because like personality obviously is like the biggest factor. But
Right. And it's quite fun when we both notice a woman and we'll give each other the look. Mm-hmm. And that's fun. We'll know we were, that she had caught our eye respectfully.
Yeah, there's not a lot of we don't try to ogle.
No. Especially, me as a man, like I fear like coming off as like creepy or threatening or
exactly.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys who definitely goes out of my way to make sure that doesn't happen. Like I will not walk near you, or if I'm walking behind you, I will walk slower so like you can get ahead or And I will definitely try to not make eye contact with you, because I know some people, some men make eye contact for way too long and
Yeah.
catcall and do all this.
Yeah, that's annoying.
All this fucked up shit.
Yeah, for real. Super annoying. Oh, going back to the being pansexual thing, something that I think is kind of an interesting point that I didn't really talk about was a lot of people, like queer people, often say like when they're younger, they like automatically like knew that they were gay or bi or, whatever, they determine themselves to be. Like a lot of people like say that. I've also heard a lot of people, who don't come out till like way, way later in life. That's also like pretty prominent as well. But I definitely fell into the camp of like, I have basically no attraction to fucking anybody up until like maybe until I was about 16, maybe. Like I really didn't, that just wasn't on my radar like at all. Like, and I remember 6th grade, like apparently there was this boy who liked me and he was like, oh, you're really cute. Like, do you want to go out on a date? Like that kind of thing. Like, cutesy, whatever. And I was like, dating? Like, I just like, that was like such a foreign concept to me in like 6th grade. I was like, that's like, I'm not thinking about that at all. And then I literally just like, I don't want a boyfriend right now, which was kind of the truth, but also kind of like, I just had no.
You were the heartbreaker.
I guess so. I mean, my first boyfriend, I don't want to, I don't think it's unfair to say I broke his heart.
Do you want to talk about that? You dated a man before you dated me.
Oh yeah. My first boyfriend, who I am still friends with, actually.
I've met him.
Yes, he is a wonderful, wonderful man.
Yeah, cool dude.
Yeah,
cool. Good beard.
Good beard. Yeah, cool guy. Great, good taste in music. Yeah, no, we're still friends. He was part of my high school friend group, and I'm actually still friends with most of my friends that was a part of my high school friend group in California. He was my first boyfriend. I'm sorry to say, not my first love. But yeah, first boyfriend. And I definitely love him as a friend. But we weren't compatible like as a couple. Especially then. A lot of it was just very like awkward and fumbly and just not, you're finding the ins and outs of like being with someone, basically. That kind of thing.
Right, and I'm sure it was hard on his end to be someone that's dated you, that is a man, and then after you two have broken up, you come out as gay. I'm sure must have been like a hard thing to, because I'm sure he probably wanted to like put the blame on himself.
Oh yeah, and that's something that I kind of regret up to a point, because it was a weird time because I dated him, but not very long, and then I was really putting like a lot of effort and thought into like, am I gay? Like, and I mean, I feel like, God, like if you have to fucking ask yourself that question, am I gay? Am I into like, me being a woman, like, am I into women? Like, of course if I'm asking the goddamn question, of course I am, like that should have been obvious, but that wasn't super obvious to like 15-year-old me. But I was already dating him at this point, and it was kind of like a setup sort of situation. Like our one friend really wanted us to date and thought we would be a cute couple. It was like a matchmaking situation. And, he said he really liked me. And like I said, I was like into him and like attracted to him. But I wasn't really sure if I was, like that kind of thing. Again, attraction not really being on my radar.
Was there a moment you maybe realized you weren't attracted to him, or was it just a slow?
It was kind of a very slow kind of realization that
this was just not for you. At least he wasn't. Romantically.
Yeah, romantically wasn't for me, because as a friend, as friends we clicked and that was great, but like I wasn't really into the whole physicalness with him, and at the time I really thought it was because I was gay, and like I'm okay with that. Like I'm okay with saying that like I identified that way, because at the time like I really was way more interested in going after and like pursuing women than anything else. I have this very distinct memory of me and him are like walking down the hallway with our one friend who match made us. And, we're holding hands and we're walking to class and whatever. And we're all talking. And then this like beautiful like girl walks by, like really dark black hair, like super pale skin, like just so stunning. And like I'm just like fixated on like her. I watched her and I literally go like, oh my God, she's so hot. And like my one friend, like the one who match made us, like her mouth just drops and was like, are you kidding me? And then my ex-boyfriend kind of just like was like,
your
whoa.
boyfriend at the time?
Yeah, my boyfriend at the time.
Oof.
Was just like, whoa. Like kind of gave me like a, wow, that's cool. Like,
okay, I was gonna say I could either be like a whoa, that's cool, or like a whoa, I'm about to lose my girlfriend to this girl.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I mean, in all fairness, like I wasn't being like not obvious or not like not subtle about liking or like being attracted to women. I was being kind of obvious with it. You know, I would point out women and like how they were pretty or like how they were attractive and that kind of thing. I never pointed out men, like really at all.
Because why would you? We all suck. All men.
No,
I said it. All men.
I guess you said it.
Let it be known, I have no allegiance to men.
Fair.
We're all the same. Nice guy, TM.
Yeah, that's a rough one. Yeah, so I really felt bad about how I handled some of that for a really long time, actually. Like me coming out to him, and really I didn't even come out to him because like breaking up, I was just like, hey, this isn't. I basically was like, hey, this isn't for me, and he was like, why? And I'm like, well, I can't really tell you. Like I didn't really come out to him until later, and I didn't even do it. Other people told him, and so I didn't. That got kind of taken away.
Dang.
Yeah.
That part. Maybe you said it to me before, but I also don't remember you telling me about that specifically.
Yeah, I didn't. Literally, there's a moment where we all sat in like the same group, like in this hallway, during like our breaks and our lunches and whatever, and like we were all just sitting there one day, and this is like maybe a few days after we broke up, maybe a week or so after we broke up. And, you know, we're still like on friendly terms and talking and stuff. There wasn't like any animosity between us. He was just very confused, which, you know, understandable. And one of his friends like had heard from like the art class that like we broke up and that it was because I was like gay. And then he literally stands up and like kind of looks at me and looks around and then like goes, oh, that's why, and then like runs the fuck out.
Oh,
and
no.
I was like, what the fuck just happened? And then our friend who match made us comes walking in being like, what happened with him? And then I told her what happened. And she was like, oh yeah, I told some people in art class. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? And she was like, oh, I thought it was fine. And I was like, well, you could have fucking asked me.
Oh no.
And so I basically, like, for the most part, like me coming out and if I remember this correctly, I don't even think she told them the right thing. Like she said she said I was like bisexual, which I guess was like closer to what I am now. But like in all honesty, like at the time, like I was very firm, like I was, you know, gay.
So you don't identify as bisexual?
No.
You identify more as pansexual?
Yeah, 100%. I would never say I was bisexual. And that's no like shade to like bisexuals by any means. I just don't particularly identify with the term. I think bisexual differentiates between, I guess, genders too much for me, because it really isn't about gender at all for me. It's so much about the person. And like I think if I had the term pansexual like earlier, or really had grasp of the concept of what it is, I wouldn't have. I may have not identified as
a full-on lesbian.
As a lesbian, but I can't say that for certain. But because even now, like my attraction is primarily towards like women. So like I'm kind of very much in like the gray area, because like I can say like I'm physically more attracted to women than I am men, but you know, you are an exception, right? It's very much like
The only exception.
yeah, you very much are an exception where like your personality and like who you are as a person and like how compatible you are with me completely overrides like any like physicality that, you know, is like maybe not my preference, right? Like, so.
Well, thank you, first and foremost.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for.
Thanks for being great.
Thanks for seeing past my physicality.
I am getting major side eye from the dog.
we have my little dog Julius here, just laying next to me. If you hear some loud snoring or maybe even a fart or two, could be him, could be me. You'll never know.
I can't even be mad. He's so cute.
He is. He's a white little Maltese. I think he's like 11 years old now.
Yeah, he's 11. He was vibing with me earlier. Like I was just chilling here and he was with me and it was just a nice time. We were enjoying each other's company.
My whole family has all our names start with a J, and Julius is no exception.
Yeah, Julius is not an exception. Anyway, yeah, who you are as a person, it is just like overrules everything, basically.
Well, thank you, because that's definitely something. Perhaps in the early stages of our relationship,
just
that
mine.
I felt a little. I wondered if that was something like maybe you would regret that, like that I am not a woman.
I mean, that's totally understandable why you would have that feeling. You know, I can't say that like, you know, do I miss like having sex with women? Oh, yes, for sure. But does that mean like that our sex life is like deficient? No. It just means that like, you know, I kind of miss like the physicality of like being a woman and like being, you know, with a woman.
Yeah, I definitely do not have a woman's body.
Well, or you know, the parts.
Nope. Not really.
Yeah, not so much.
Some similarities, but
yeah.
The main feature, the big ticket, is it's a different kind of show.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just more of like a preference for one versus the other. But like, you know, really at the end of the day, like that doesn't even matter that much anyway, because like I mean, I miss it, but it's also kind of like I would never like pick that over you, like what I have with you, you know? Like that's so much more important.
Well, thank you again. Yeah, I agree. The level of compatibleness, I don't even know if that's a word, but that we have with each other is it's definitely unlike any other relationship I've had. Yeah, there's like no doubt in my mind that like you are who I want to be with.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was very early on where it was just like, wow, like we are very like well suited to each other. Like very quickly it became apparent that was the case.
Yeah, we definitely started off as friends.
Yeah.
And
we grew close really quickly.
Right, even though you told me that you identified as lesbian and that there was one point where I told you I loved you.
Oh, yeah.
And your response was, why does this always happen?
Then in hindsight, too, that was a terrible thing to say to you. But
no, I mean, I'm sure you were tired of that happening.
I mean, I definitely was, because like at the time, like you were probably like the third or fourth man to like say that to me.
Oh, man.
Like, and it was just like, just I was over it.
I'm sorry.
And like honestly, like that's wonderful. Like no shade to like those men that had said that to me. Like that's like wonderful that they were expressing their feelings and like being vulnerable. But it just like you know, sometimes things get old, especially when it's like I do not want to sleep with you kind of situation.
Right. Well, either way, so you know, for a while we just remained friends, and I sort of always kept hope a little bit of hope in the back of my mind in case, I don't know, anything were to change. But also I didn't like count on that. Like I wasn't like, I'm going to change your mind.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was just like, well,
Yeah.
I still value the friendship we have. And if that's the best that's going to happen, then I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Oh, and also, did you want to talk about like how we were kind of in different spots? Like, did you want to mention that you were kind of...
I will if you will.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
So this next part is going to be about someone who I think that there's a strong likelihood that this person might be listening. So I'm not going to mention them by name.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I'm going to try to do this as respectfully as I can. But yeah, when I met you, I was more or less hung up on another person. And our friendship kind of grew from me asking you advice on what I should be doing with this person and how
ironic.
Right. And the closer we got, kind of the farther away I got with the other person. And I realized that you were giving me a lot of what she wasn't. I had considered this person my best friend up until meeting you, and you like completely redefined what friendship and specifically a best friend looked like. Because sad to say, I was one of those people in high school where I was friendly with a lot of people and part of like a lot of groups that didn't always overlap. For example, I did my high school's business club, FBLA, shout out Future Business Leaders of America. But then I was also in musical theater, drama, and I did a lot of things. And I was friendly with a lot of people, but I didn't really have a tight-knit group of friends or even someone I would consider my best friend. I mean, I did, but again, looking back now at the best friendship you and I have, it's nothing else compares.
I would agree with that. I mean, I've also had like very close like relationships with one person in particular who I would have considered my best friend for a really long time until we had like a falling out. That's actually something I'd really like to talk about, but maybe on a later.
Maybe we'll dedicate an entire
like that. Yeah, later episode
to that,
because that's a very long and convoluted story. I don't really want to get into right now, but yeah, like I at the time, I would have considered her my best friend as well. But you have completely surpassed that at this point. So it's just like a more like unconditional like care and like love and like understanding.
I would say the exact same about you.
Yeah, not as not as conditional. It's not as transactional.
Right. I definitely, obviously, in the beginning, tried to do my best to impress you and whatnot. But we're at a point now where like I don't feel like judged by you. I don't feel like I have to.
Oh yeah, no.
Be at the tip top of my game always.
And that's not what a relationship is anyway. Like
right. And I'm not saying the person I've been referencing. I'm not saying that that's what they made me do, but that's kind of how I felt around them in the sense that I was trying so hard to
win them,
be perfect,
in
order to win them, but
ultimately things kind of fell flat.
Yeah, like through you and me, I learned that just is not sustainable.
Yeah, no, not at all.
You cannot keep that up, and
and that's not who you truly are anyway.
Right, and if it is a little cliche to say, but like if they can't handle you at your worst, then they don't deserve you at their best.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Because I mean, at the end of the day, like if you're gonna be with someone for like, years, decades, even like. it's unrealistic to think that you're going to be perfect all of the time. It doesn't really work that way. That's not how life is.
Sorry, I'm just gonna recorrect myself because I definitely butchered the pronouns there. If they can't handle you at your worst, they don't serve you at your best. I think that's correct. It was just gonna bother me if I just let that go on.
No, that's okay. That's fine. That's a little bit of your perfectionism slipping in there.
Well, there it is. And also, like, I can't be sounding stupid on my own podcast.
It's okay. I mean, this is about not being perfect
You're right.
all the time.
You're right. I have already lost sight of what I'm trying to accomplish.
This is a learning experience.
This is a learning experience.
It is a hard thing to undo.
Yes.
It's not like you can just suddenly snap your fingers and things are fine.
Yeah. See, there's another example of like me caring too much about what other people think of me.
Yeah, I mean, well, you also said it would bother you, so I mean, it
would bother me because
other people would be would say something. Yeah, okay, that's fair.
It stems from that.
Yeah. No, I mean that's fine. That makes sense. It's unrealistic to assume that you can always be on the top of your game all the time. It's just not a realistic thing to like expect from somebody. And that's also really not how like intimacy works either. It's like sometimes you got to see someone going through it, to really understand like their perspective or where they're coming from. Or some of our best like personal like learning experiences are from like arguments we've had or disagreements we've had. Not like we wouldn't have gotten to those places if we didn't have those conversations. So it's kind of like, you grow.
Yeah. You grow and you learn from those moments, those imperfect moments.
Yeah. Going back to like that we were in different places, obviously you were hung up on somebody else and I was getting out of a breakup. That was kind of terrible.
Yeah. So when we met, you were still with your girlfriend.
Yeah, I was still with my girlfriend.
But it was sort of on decline.
Yes. In hindsight, but not in like actual like well, for context, because this is important that I was with my ex-girlfriend for 3 years and we were kind of living together and we had a cat together and all this shit. And, U-Haul lesbians type situation. And my girlfriend moved from where I met her in Texas to New Jersey for college. But really it was for me, mostly.
How romantic.
Yeah, very romantic. She like followed me across the country because, my parents were moving and I was obviously going with them and that whole deal. But she got her place, and eventually I spent way more time at her place than I did at anybody else's place, like my parents' place. So we were essentially living together at that point, and I helped her pay for things. We were pretty serious, and she kind of just like left me. Like in hindsight, it wasn't out of the blue because she had a lot of like mental health problems that like went unresolved and she didn't really have a huge support system out here, like nobody she could really rely on except for like me, which is kind of a terrible situation, honestly. And she only really had her mom, but her mom was in Texas and they were kind of on and off, like not really talking. So like in hindsight, it was like I could have seen it coming, but when you're so close to a situation, it's a little bit harder to like see what's right in front of your face. Yeah, that was a difficult time. So like she would just, without any warning, really, like forewarning, she like left and was basically just like, oh, I'm going home. And like at first I thought like, oh, you're just going home for a visit, but it really turned into like, no, I don't want to be with you. It wasn't so much like I don't love you. It was more of like I need to go home and take care of like my mental stuff. And that's kind of initially what I thought it was, but it was turned into more of like a breakup type situation. And like she didn't even want to say any of the actual words, like, oh, breaking up with me. Like she didn't, like I had to force her to say like what she actually meant. So that was pretty bad because she like took all the stuff and the cat and just like everything and like just kind of packed her shit up and left. The worst part about it was that she was planning it behind my back for like a lot of this. So she was like talking with her mom about it and planning to do this and like didn't actually have a discussion with me about it. And that's kind of all swept under the rug now, and it's like we're fine, and you know we're in a good spot, me and her. So it's not like it doesn't hurt anymore, but like it certainly hurt for a very long time. So that's kind of where I was like when we had met and when we were becoming friends, and yeah, it was just a very terrible time, like in my life, very like tumultuous time in my life when we met.
Well, I'm glad I met you, and we were able to mutually give each other friendship to sort of help each other on our hang-ups.
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely much needed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it was like it was nice to have somebody to lean on.
Yeah, hearing you explain that situation again and like hearing that story again, it does make me think of the differences in communication styles between us, and how you can sometimes have a lot of anxiety if you don't get direct communication. And I'm sure,
particularly with you, yeah.
and I'm sure that doesn't help having the experience you did with your ex-girlfriend.
And with other people, but also
Right.
particularly with her as well.
So I should explain that I'm the type of person where if I'm getting like emotionally riled up, my first instinct is to shut down inwardly. And growing up, I would sort of go toe to toe with my mom in these emotional blowouts, sort of meltdown.
Witnessed a few of those.
Right. And that has sort of trained me to like not want to have those sort of outbursts again, and especially not with my girlfriend. And so if I'm starting to lose my temper or get annoyed, I usually keep to myself. Which is another thing too. Growing up, I felt like I didn't really have anywhere to navigate my emotions. Like I didn't have anyone to...
You didn't have an outlet.
Right. I didn't have anyone to talk me through them. My mom's usually like at the opposite end of, you know, these opposing forces of us. My dad, again, I love him, but he's not the most emotionally mature. And he didn't really have, still really doesn't have like the tools to navigate
That kind of emotional landscape.
Right. The complexity of all that. And like, even now I'm still trying to like understand myself better and like grow emotionally and have a high level of emotional maturity and emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
But for me, that takes time, and that's why I shut down, because when I'm having like a deep emotional response, I don't want to say anything I don't mean, and all my energy is spent keeping myself calm or at bay, or at the very least not having an outburst and doing or saying something I regret.
Yeah. Which like I 100% like get that now. But yeah, no, like in the beginning, like that was a very hard thing for me to grasp onto, because I mean, you know, like you said, I've had pretty negative experiences where people like basically just wanted me to mind read, or like basically just wanted, you know, like wouldn't tell me things, and I would just have to like pick up on like the nuance, which I would say most of the time I did, but like that isn't like my communication style. I'm just like, if you don't respect me enough to tell me directly, like what are we even doing? And I mean, largely that's probably not the case. Like it could just be like that somebody has a, like you have a difficult time like processing things and you need to like step away. Like it could very well be like that kind of circumstance, but
Right. Again, in my instance, it's not about shutting you out.
yeah.
It's about shutting down a potential emotional outburst that isn't reflective of who I am.
Yeah. And that definitely took a long time for me to understand, because that's my instant response, is to feel like you were shutting me out.
Right.
That like, and it's hard, and we've gotten to a point where like we're definitely better at that, like accepting each other's like styles, but we still, have moments where we struggle with that, where it's like I want, like, if not instant, I want, to be talking, to be like processing this, and to be, going through it like verbally. But it definitely can be like difficult to just like set that aside and like set my anxiety aside and be like, hey, he will eventually like come around and like come back and we'll talk about this. But like, that's always like a fear that like you won't come back and you won't talk about this. 'Cause,
Right.
it's those things have happened to me before.
Right. I feel like apart from like also like how we were raised as people, I'm sure there's a lot of like gender divides as well. Mm-hmm. Like being a man versus being a woman, in the sense that guys are not. We don't really like have the tools to navigate our emotions. Like we're not.
No one tells you or helps you with that a lot of the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas like traditionally women, it's more. I don't want to say okay, but like more expected that you would be more emotional, and I guess displaying of emotions is
more willing to talk about things.
more common
Yeah.
in women. But like if you were to do that as a man, it can be seen as weak or vulnerable.
Yeah, or like you're not like living up to like the stereotype.
Or you're
of,
not masculine.
Yeah, you're not masculine enough.
And that's a whole thing that like is a big thing with me. Like toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Absolutely hate it.
Yeah, definitely not. I definitely have quite a few examples of that in my life, and that's not really been a fun time for me either.
Yeah, that's something I knew from an early age, that like I do not want to be some macho man that disrespects women and
and like doesn't talk about their feelings and
right.
is like unemotional.
Yeah, like is emotionally unavailable. No, that was not who I was going to be.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I don't think that that's a good place to be generally. I don't think that's fair to men. I don't think men should be able to experience like the entire spectrum of emotions. Like if anything, what men and women have very opposite problems, in the way that women tend to be seen as over emotional, or their emotions get the better of them, whereas men are seen as too little emotion a lot of times. Depending on who you're asking. But yeah, as a woman, I've definitely been like called like, oh, over emotional for like feeling one way or another, and that's stupid as fuck. It's like, oh, I'm just having a feeling and I'm feeling it. That's not this is not being over emotional. It's being emotional, but not being over emotional. I don't really think that's a good term to use ever, really.
Yeah, I think that's totally unfair. Yeah, it's almost like a trap, in the sense that it's common for women to be emotional, but because of that, it's so easy to label them as just being overly emotional.
Mm-hmm. Especially if a man is saying it, because men are sometimes socialized to, be more reserved with their emotions.
Right.
And, so by comparison or by contrast, it's women seem over emotional.
Right.
When maybe they're not really.
When really there are many times that men are emotional, but that emotion is just anger, often like misguided.
Yeah. And men are only allowed to feel like certain emotions.
Right. But they don't get the same flack that women do.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. Like, it's weird because masculine emotions are seen as like a like often a negative thing when you compare it to women. If I guess if you're talking about it in like the stereotypical sense, and like how women and men are like socialized differently. It's like a woman who's angry, or even a woman who's like frustrated or just simply not smiling, is kind of seen as like not feminine enough, too masculine, or nah, that's kind of, it's just silly. Like it's,
Yeah. And again, femininity, masculinity, these are all social constructs.
oh yeah, 100%. Like, I think it's kind of ridiculous that so many walls and like barriers exist in the first place.
Right.
It's like people should just be allowed to be who they are.
Absolutely. That's definitely something I advocate. Just being like your true authentic self. Like,
Oh yeah.
as long as you're not hurting others
anybody.
or yourself. I mean, who cares? Like who you love.
Yeah. Or who you love, or who you are,
Or who
what
you
you
are,
do, really. But
who you present yourself as.
yeah, I also think it's fair to say that like, while I believe that gender is socially constructed, and I don't think gender matters in the sense of it shouldn't matter what you are, or what you like, or how you display your emotions, or things like that. I feel like it's ignorant to say that in the society that we live in, particularly in the United States, that gender doesn't matter. Like it matters because society demands it to matter. So to say that, like me growing up and being socialized as a woman, and you versus you being socialized as a man, we grew up in these sorts of, quote unquote roles. And, by whatever definition we have broken or not broken those sorts of things. But to say that doesn't inform our experience, I think is kind of ignorant to say, because it's not like either one of us particularly grew up without those sorts of barriers. Like I was definitely raised as a girl, but I was raised in a way that wasn't like super feminine. Like my parents, for the most part, was kind of just let me do whatever I wanted, like gravitated towards whatever I wanted. So in that way, my parents were, I don't want to say like progressive, but they weren't like very like super gender role enforcing, like at least with me. But I think that's because women get a little bit of a pass, when they're a little bit more boyish, or like tomboyish, I guess, where I think men are men are often more rigid with little boys about some things. Like playing with dolls instead of trucks sort of situation, or wanting to bake instead of, like playing with G.I. Joes, like that kind of thing.
Because, like, it's, I guess, in a way emasculating.
Yeah.
And it's funny, there's no, like, equivalent word for emasculating, like, for women, is there?
For emasculating?
Yeah.
I'm sure there is, but I don't think it's
definitely not
widely
as common.
Circulated. Yeah. I'm sure there is like it's kind of a similar situation as
effeminating.
Yeah, I guess
maybe
if it's a similar situation of like you hear the term coined, that's coined like toxic masculinity a lot, but nobody really talks about the reverse of toxic positivity or toxic femininity. Sorry, like that exists too, but it's not as widely talked about as like masculinity is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of interesting. There's just a lot of weird exceptions, like that. Yeah, but to say that like that gender doesn't inform our experience, I think would be like incorrect to say that. But going forward, I would like, especially with like our children, like I wouldn't want to like care too much about like all those gender like stereotypes or whatever. I wouldn't enforce like a little boy to like not be able to play with dolls. It's like, if you want to play with a doll, play with a doll. Like do your thing. If you want to wear a dress, wear a dress. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I just would want them to understand like that some people, aren't going to like this, or I don't want to necessarily say consequences of their actions, because that seems kind of harsh, but I would want them to understand like that, everything you do to an extent has a cost.
Right. Yeah, our kids are going to be able to play with whatever toys they want. They're going to be able to dress however they want. And we're going to be some cool parents.
Yeah, I hope so.
We're going to be our kids' best friends. No. We're not going to be those kinds of parents. But
I mean, without any limits, I mean...
Yeah, no, not...
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say when you're not actually a parent.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure there would be some things that our ideals like change on maybe when we do become parents, but like I largely would want to raise them just to be good people and not really much else more.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like,
That's the biggest thing is to be a good person.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that could be a whole episode, honestly, like parenting and
Right.
our parents, and then how we were parented, and then how we want to parent.
Yeah,
You know?
and you don't need religion to be a morally good person.
Oh, 100%. I'm so agree with that.
And I think we should leave it on that cliffhanger for the next episode.
Ooh.
Where I'm sure you would want to talk about our
I have so many
religious
things to say. So many things.
what did Rhett and Link call theirs? The religious decompressing. The religious
the deconstruction.
There we go.
Decompressing. I'm
Yeah,
decompressing. No, deconstruction.
I am depressed. No.
I mean, I am. So yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I am now depressed that you're depressed. But we shall save that for next episode, the next entry of Juandering.
And thus, I must leave you in suspense. Like I mentioned before, I have a bad habit of wanting to please everyone. And I know that last statement definitely will do the opposite of that. But it is my truth, and I want to be able to speak it. So whether you agree or are curious, I hope you'll join me next week. And I hope this entry was worth your time. Until next entry, keep wondering, keep wandering, and go all in.